This is lesson 2 on the art of casting shadows. So we're actually going to have a look at casting the shadow on a cylinder. And I can hear some of you saying, but Tom, you said that you were going to teach us how to cast shadows on Tuscan columns. You lying bastard, why are we doing cylinders? Well, we are going to get to the Tuscan column, and we're going to do the other columns as well. But first, you're going to have to get good at casting shadows on the basic shapes. And if you think about it, a column is basically a very, very fancy cylinder. In essence, maybe that's a bit of an oversimplification, but essentially, yeah, that's kind of what it is. I mean, there's a lot of cylindrical forms in here. There's one here. So, being able to cast shadows on cylinders is going to be a very, very useful technique for us. So I've got a cylinder sketched up in 3D, in perspective, just to kind of give you an idea of what's happening. This is 1-point perspective. I've decided to put the horizon line up here, even though that's not quite accurate, but this isn't meant to be an accurate perspective drawing. This is just for representational purposes only. So we're not going to worry too much about the perspective. All you need to know is this is the cylinder in perspective, and this is the shadow that we've got on it. And this diagram right here with the dotted line, this is kind of what we're looking for. So if we have a look, this top view is the plan view. That's the plan view of our cylinder, as if we are looking from above. And we've also got the facade down here. And this is if we're standing right in front of the cylinder, and it looks like a rectangle from this angle. And it's very, very simple. The technique to cast a shadow on a cylinder, or I should say a shade, because technically this is a shade. So I actually want to quickly clarify that shades are when the object begins to turn away from the light source. And a shadow is a shadow that's being cast from one object onto another. So what we've got here on the cylinder is actually a shade, not a shadow. So how do we cast the shade? Well, we're going to need the plan view to do this. We'll start with this method and I'll show you another one. So you've got your plan view, you've got your vertical and horizontal axes crossing through it, and then from the center of that circle, you're going to draw a 45-degree angle until it intersects with the arc, right there. And that, if you drop that onto your facade, that gives you the position of the shade. Very, very, very easy. So I'm going to shade that in for you, like so. It's incredibly simple. Almost a bit too simple. But that's what it is. And that's exactly what I've done on the column on each of these parts. So, very, very simple to do. Not tricky at all. So before I wrap up this lesson, I want to show you an alternate method. So to use that method, you kind of have to have the plan view. Or you could, if you wanted to make it slightly trickier, you could superimpose the plan view somewhere on the elevation drawing if you wanted to save space on the paper. So let's say I draw this half of the plan view on the elevation. Then you could draw from the center of that arc and you'll come to the exact same intersection right there. So superimposing your plans onto the elevation view is a great way of saving space on the paper, and you might find it necessary to actually do that with some of your drawings. But there is another method. This other method involves you using your 45-degree set square. You'll go from the center axis on your elevation view and draw a 45-degree diagonal. You will then, from this edge, from the edge that you're casting the shade on, you will draw another 45-degree diagonal, like so, and they will intersect there. And then with your compass, you will center the needle on the central axis, and you'll drop an arc. And you can see where that arc is hitting directly the position of our shadow where it needs to be. See that? So that's a very, very useful technique if you don't want to go through the trouble of drawing a plan view. However, in most of your drawings you will be having to draw the plan view anyway, but this is a great technique just to kind of save room on the paper and kind of keep your drawing a bit cleaner as well. So I like to use this one, and you can see I've used it many times where I've needed it on the Tuscan column over here. So I would get more familiar with this technique because I just find it's a little bit quicker and it's a little bit easier, a bit more efficient, and it just looks cleaner overall. But practice with that. So there you go. You've successfully casted a shade onto your cylinder. Easy peasy.